Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe Beck, and I'm going to do my top books of 2022. So I have a top 10 list, but I also have a lot of extra books because I did a lot of series reading this year and a lot of binging certain authors. So I have multiple books from certain authors, some of them in different series. And so I want to make sure I mention all the 5-star reads that I had in this list. So it's going to be kind of, because there's a couple of them, I have quite a few books that were 5 stars, and I'll pick one for the list, but the rest of them just so you know that they're good. I do have a few honorable mentions, which I will mention as well, because they were not quite 5 stars, but they were very close, and I really enjoyed them. I'm not going to have a worst or disappointing reads video at any point. I just want to say that I had only 3 books I classified as 2-star reads that were, you know, probably well written or executed, but just didn't work for me. And it's just not worth it to do a whole video for that. So I'm not going to worry about those. I'm going to go with the positive, because this year was really weird because I usually am a 4-star person. Like, I put a lot of 4 stars on a lot of things. If I enjoyed it and I know I'm going to reread it again, it's almost always a 4-star. And because I read so many series this year, that happened a lot. So I had way more 4 stars, which I will talk about in my stats video sometime next week. So, but I want to be on the positive side today and talk about all the good books that I read and the series that I touched or finished or got into. So many series, and I'm so glad I'm going to be continuing that. I think that is where I should be, and I think this year kind of taught me that that is really what my reading used to be like, and then I kind of wandered away from that, and now I want to go back because I really enjoy it. So let's talk about actually, because there are some standalones in here, don't get me wrong. I do read standalones, just not as many as the series, I admit it. So let's talk about my honorable mentions. I have 4 of them. One of them is The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy by Megan Bannon. So I really enjoyed this fantasy where we're following Hart, who is a marshal, and he has a certain job to do in the area, and then he interacts with Mercy, who runs with her family, well, what do you call them? Mortuary? Undertakers. They're undertakers. And they, from the moment they meet, do not get along, so every interaction is just not nice. And then, but Hart is really struggling, and Mercy is struggling in her own ways as well, with certain things going on in her family and with the business. And Hart takes a chance and writes this letter to a friend because he's lonely, and somehow it gets delivered to Mercy, and it starts a correspondence between them, and they don't know that they're writing to each other until into the book. So it was really a cute, there's the romance, but there's a lot of good fantasy elements in here for this world. And then just the interactions with the other characters in here were just fun. I really enjoyed all the characters in here. I'm already looking forward to rereading this one, but I really enjoyed that. Another one is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangumandana. So again, this is kind of there's witches in the world, but they're not allowed to be close to each other very much because of a power buildup kind of thing. So the what is her name? Mika is very lonely in a lot of ways, and she has to change jobs or move around because she can't let anybody know what she's doing, and she puts videos up on the internet, and somebody sees her and knows that she can help 3 young witches I think in the north of England. So she goes there, and it's such a cute adventure of what's going on here. Again, this was so close to a 5-star, but there's one trope in here that just, like as in The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, there's just one thing that held me back from giving it a 5, but it was so close that I had to mention it and say this was just a fun light read, and I really enjoyed that one as well. And then I have to mention Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. Sorry. So this one is following Viv, who is an orc and has did I just say that wrong? Yeah, anyway, so she's decides not to she doesn't want to be a mercenary anymore, and she wants to run a coffee shop. And it's just, it's high fantasy, low stakes is definitely the tagline, and it definitely works. I have the self-pub version as well, indie pub version as well. I just wanted to support him, so I also got the traditionally published version. I really enjoyed this. I can't wait for more from him, because it was a great read. It was so cute just of seeing her interactions with other people and dealing with stuff in her past, as well as where she wants to go in the future. And again, this coffee shop is just so cute. And I know everybody's going to have that on their list, so, but it's not a mention. And then the last one I want to mention is from an author that I read like 4 of her series this year. And I only have one book here, but because those ones are all like paranormal romances, and they were just fun. Like, as I said, the Pride series, the Honey Badger series, the Magnus Pack series, and, you know, I've read other series from her before. But the Scarred Earth Saga by G.A. Akins, or also Shelley Lawrenston. This series is just one of my favorites of hers. It's a fantasy. It has a light romance in it, or, you know, it's in there because you're getting POVs from both the main female character and male character in each book. But the world is it just grows and grows. This is book 3 that just came out this last week, but I read it right away because I just adore this series. So in the first book of the Black Smith Queen, we are following Healy, who has to deal with the fact that her sister Beatrice is like destined, or is thought to was supposed to be the queen, and, you know, they're not any royal at all. And it's just kind of the aftermath and the fallout from that. And then this one's that I'm showing here is one of the other sisters, and again, we still see all the other people in the family and all the people around them that we've met in the other books. But this was just a great book. As I said, I just love this series. Again, it's super fantasy, super hilarious. You have to have a certain, you have to just, they're funny. They're people you don't want to be with, but they're super violent, and it's just, there's a lot of action in here as well, and just hilarious. I just laughed through all these books. So I did want to mention that because I did read a lot of Shelley Lawrenston books this year, and I reread and then read this last book for G.A. Aiken. And again, I just adore them. So I want to make sure I mentioned those as my honorable mentions, because they're just so good. Okay, so let's start with number 10 is For the Wolf by Hannah Winton. So this is the second book in the Wilder Wood duology, and I really enjoyed the way this went. I was really surprised about how it went, because I wasn't sure from the first book to this one. The first book was following Red and Rhaedaris, and she is the second daughter. So when there's 2 daughters, the first one is for the throne, the second is for the wolf. And so she is, Rhaedaris is sacrificed to the Wilder Wood and to the wolf, and she is sent into the woods. And Nev, who is the one who is destined for the crown, in the first book does some things where, you know, things happen near the end of that book, and then results in what happens through Nev's journey through this. So we're following more Nev in this book, and not as much of Red and the other characters. But they had quite a few POVs in here, a little bit more than the first book, so I liked that. I just really enjoyed this. It's not perfect, but it was just a fun duology, and I think it went in directions I didn't expect it to, and a lot of things. I think that was the main thing. It surprised me of where it went, and I do really enjoy these characters, so I was glad to do that. So that is my number 10. Number 9 is Where the Drowned Girls Go by Shauna McGuire. I think this is book 7 in the Wayward Children series, so I've been reading these since the beginning. This was, I think, is one of my top of the list of the books. I really enjoyed this one because we're following Cora, who we've seen in some of the other books, and her kind of journey of dealing with stuff where she decides to go to a different school to try that out, to see if that's better fit for her, because she just feels kind of off from things that happened in one of the other books. So it's not a book you can read not in the series. I would definitely read these in order. And I just really enjoyed the journey in here of Cora, and then what happens. and through this. And this is one of my favorites of the series. Again, these are children who go through portals, and then at some point they are kicked out and sent back to reality, or then they have in the real world, and then they have to deal with that. And many of them go to Eleanor West School, but this other school exists that some of them get sent to. And I thought it was really, really well done. I really just enjoyed this one. I'm looking forward to the next one, of course, that's coming out in a couple weeks. So anyway, but I really, really loved that book. Is that number 8? Is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater. I love this book. So this is the first book in the Regency fairy tale series. We're following Theodora, who, when she was young, she ran afoul of a fae who took half of her soul. And so now we're dealing with her in her her adult life, and she is going to London with her cousin, who is trying to get her aunt is trying to marry off her cousin for you know, that kind of thing in the Regency era. So they're going to London during the season, and then it's what happens while they're doing that, and then how Theodora is perceived and meets people like the sorcerer of, I don't know, it's London or of the country anyway. And so, and he's got his own issues and stuff. And, but there's also there's also the magic in here, and also there's a fae connection to certain things. And I really, really just love this. I can't wait to reread this. I've actually been trying to hold off a little bit longer to reread. I want to read the other 2 books in this series, and then I'll go back and reread, but I really want to reread this one. So, well, I want to reread a lot of these books. I'm a big rereader. So, but anyway, I really enjoyed this. I'm excited to continue on with the series because they're all companion novels. So, you know, but I love that book. It was so good. So number, sorry, what was that? That was 8. So 7. Okay, so 7 is one of my ones where I have multiple books. So the book I'm putting on for number 7 is Neon Gods by Katie Robert. So I've read a lot of Katie Robert this year. Just like, well, as I said, my top new reads for Shelley Lawrenson, and then Katie Robert was right underneath her. So I just adored the Dark Olympus series. There are 3 books out so far. Neon Gods is the first one, following the Hades Persephone retelling. You know, it's like modern world, but there's all these, they're the people with the like Hades and Demeter and I can't think of anything. I don't know what the other names are. Eros and some of the other ones. Those are all titles, and so the person just becomes that title. So it's kind of, it's not like they're not gods, they're just the ones in charge. It's kind of mafia-ish. They're in charge of the city. And so Hades is in charge of the lower city, and Persephone is trying to escape and ends up in his realm, and it just kind of goes from there. And it has the fake dating trope. It was just, I just love this one. And I did, again, give 5 stars also to Electric Gods, or Electric Idol, which is number 2, which is an Eros, and her name went right out of my head. Psyche retelling. And I really, really enjoyed this as well. So, but as I said, on the list is this one. But this one's really not that far behind. I also adored Desperate Measures, which is the first book in the Wicked Villain series. I don't know why this one was so good, this first book, but it was. Not any of the tropes I even like for... this one was definitely more mafia style. And kind of the forced proximity marriage kind of thing, or had to be close to them even though they hate each other. But do they really hate each other? Anyway, I really, really enjoyed that. And then the other one is the first book in the Court of the Vampire Queen, or the Bloodline Vampire series by Katie Robert. I read the Sacrifice. I really, really enjoyed of that series, and gave that one 5 stars as well. But again, as I said, the top one is really Neon Gods. That's still my favorite of all the stuff I've read from her and from that series. So that one is number, what did I just say? So number 7. Number 6 is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I adored this book. I really liked The Martian. I mean, I read that and listened to it and watched the movie. I really enjoyed The Martian. And what I liked about this is it had humor as well with science, but also this one was a little different because the humor was more middle grade humor, and it was just cute. Anyway, so this one is following, oh, and his name went right, Ryland, and he is, wakes up and he is in space, in a spaceship, and he doesn't know where he is or, you know, what's going on, but he is the only one alive and the other crew members are dead. And we go through this journey of him getting his memories back, and then him dealing with what he was sent out there to do and why, and the problems and the weird things that happen that go along with that journey. There is a lot of science in this. I mean, again, it's very much science-based. I think a lot of people are turned off by that, but to me, I really like it because it all sounded right. I may not have understood everything, but I just enjoyed that aspect to the story. I loved the main character as he goes through when he discovers his past, what he does in the present, that, you know, how he's dealing with stuff and how he goes through what he needs to get done, and then also finding out what happened in the past and the differences between those things. And then, as I said, there's things that happen here. I don't want to give anything away. I just think this is a great book. I was really surprised by the end. I was really happy with the way it went and why. But I thought this was just a great read, and it was great on audio. I picked up a physical copy because I want to reread it physically next time. But the audio was fantastic. So I would definitely recommend that. And but anyway, I just adored that book. And that is book number 6. So number 5. So here's another one with a lot of books that I want to talk about. So again, I am doing reading Alona Andrews with Tia and all the books. And I have 5 books that I gave 5 stars to. But I'm going to put down the very last book that came out, which is Ruby Fever by Alona Andrews. I just love the way that this wrapped everything up from the 2 trilogies that have come out so far. This is a urban fantasy that has people who are born in families that have magic, and we're following the Baylor family, which starts with Nevada in her trilogy, the first trilogy, and then the second trilogy follows Catalina, and they are investigators, and so they are drawn into mystery. So there's always the mystery element in here, and an overarching plot of things going on, and then there's romance. So and I said, let's see, where's the other? So again, I gave 5 stars to all the books of the Catalina series this year, and as well as the 3rd book in the first section with Nevada. I just love the way this wrapped up as well. So I loved all these books. They're not, again, they're series books, so maybe that's because we're deeper in the series. I just loved it, you know, just got more and more and more. But I just adored reading the Hidden Legacy series. It was a really great series. I can't wait to reread it. I'm hoping they will continue and do the 3rd sister with her trilogy, but we'll see what happens. It leaves it really satisfying in the end, but it also leaves a couple questions open that I really want to find out. And then I'm also reading the Innkeeper Chronicles, and so the last one we read in December, actually, one fell sweep. I just adored this one. This was the best of the so far of the Innkeeper Chronicles that we've read. This is book 3. So this one is following a woman, Dina, who is in charge of an inn where she gets guests from who are aliens, and so she has certain powers on the property to keep them safe, and also to keep them from humans, for the people on Earth to know that they exist. And everything always goes wrong. I just love those. Anyway, so again, I've read a lot of Alona Andrews in the last couple of years because I read the whole Kate Daniels series last year with Tia. And I said, we've now read the Hidden Legacy, and now we're reading the Innkeeper Chronicles. We're partway through that. So we'll see. There's still a couple series, but I really enjoy the Alona Andrews, and so they had to be on this list. As I said, I gave 5 stars, 5 books, 5 stars. And the other 2 books were very close. They were high 4, you know, they were mid 4s, you know, whatever. So I just love them. Anyway, some of the other books. So number 4, oh, here, this is the only one I don't have a physical copy of because I, I have it on ebook and audiobook, and that's Storm Echo by Nalini Singh. So she is at number 4, but it's hard. You know, she is like my favorite author. Like, as I said, I reread all of her books this year. I read all the Side Changing series for this one before this book came out. This is book 21 in the Side Changing series. I read all 20 books beforehand. And this book is just a continuation. So the Side Changing series has, is a world like about 80 years, well, no, now it's about 60 years in the future, where there are shifters, and there are people with psychic abilities, and humans all vying for power. And there's a huge overarching storyline. The first section completes up in book 15, and then the second, there's a second section called the Side Changing Trinity, which starts at book 16. And as I said, we're now into book 6 of that. So I just adore the whole series. It's definitely one of my favorite urban fantasy series out there. Again, it is the world just grows and grows, and the couples and grow, but it's just the things that happened in this book were, you know, their storyline I just really enjoyed. So again, that's one of the so I read all those books in that series, but I also read all the books in the Guild Hunter series, and this is book number 15 that came out this year. So this has also got a 5-star read for me. So this is also here. Archangels Resurrection. I like this one because it was different in the format, like the way it was formatted, because we're following 2 of the Archangels, and we're kind of seeing them over millennium. It was just awesome to see things from like how different things were and how they grew as people, or as archangels. I just love this. And I said, the Guild Hunter series deals with a world where there are vampires, angels, and archangels who rule the world. Humans, there are only a select few who are Guild Hunters, who are the ones who chase after the vampires that go rogue and stuff. And so there's a huge overarching plot as well, which wrapped up pretty much in the book, 2 books before this. And then now I'm not sure where she's going to go with the series yet, but we're getting some of the stories that we wanted from the characters. So I don't know where this series is going, but I loved this book just because it was different from the others. And I love the couple in here as well, just because they were different. And I really enjoyed this. So again, the Nalini Singh was going to be on this list. You knew that. So, but Storm Echo, I just adored. So number 3. Oh, okay. So this is a late entry for the list, but I have to put Harrow the Ninth by Tam Simior on here. So I picked up Gideon the Ninth. I picked it up at the end of November and finished it in mid December, and then I had to go get Harrow the Ninth right away. These are space. Well, the tagline is, you know, lesbian necromancers in space, but it's so much more than that. All the books in this series, in the Locked Tomb series, is following these women, but they're these certain people, but every book is different. So Gideon again was so close to a 5, but I'm still putting it here because the experience was just fantastic. So this one is following Gideon, and she and Harrowhawk the Ninth. They go on a mission to one of the other planets where they are going to try to train to be lictors, which are the Emperor's kind of top agents. And they get there, and it's like a locked room mystery where things just start going on, and then there are none kind of deaths start happening. This was just fantastic, and I just adored this. But this one blew my mind in a lot more ways, because even though there are so many things in here that, I mean, I can't wait to reread this series. I tabbed this one up. This one I didn't, because I didn't know I was going to need to. Dang it. Anyway, but I'm going to do that. Anyway, but Harrow then changes, everything changes. The perspective changes. Everything is confusion, and it doesn't match up to what happened in other things that you found out in the other book, and you're like, what is going on? And you spend half the time trying to figure that out. And I just love that. Those books are like my favorites. They're when they're kind of hard to figure out, and I don't mind books that drop me into something and I don't know what's going on. Those are the kind of books I really love. And I just adore this. So I'm right now reading Nona the Ninth as my first book of 2023. I didn't get to it at the end of the year, but Harrow is just, it was perfection. It was just so weird and so different, and I just adored it. But again, I loved Gideon as well. So that's my number 3 on the list. Number 2 is, I'm going to say, Gleam from the Plated Prisoners series by Raven Kennedy. I've read all the books that are out so far. Gild, Glint, and then Gleam, and then, what's the last one? Glow. So I just devoured this series as well. Gleam is my favorite of the 4 books that are out. I think this was just a fantastic book because so many things that happened in the first 2 books kind of combines and then grows, and everything kind of explodes in book 3. And I just adore this book of the growth of the character, Oren, and her journey as being the golden pet of King Midas. And it's just, this fantasy was so well done. Again, I know people don't like book 1 that well, but I think that once you get through that, the journey is just so fascinating. It was so fascinating. Like, I didn't have a problem with book 1, but I know some people did with Gild. But I found it, because I didn't know where it was going to go. I had no idea how all the books could be so big. Like, where are we going with this? And the things that happened in here were just, this is my favorite book of the series. I liked Glow as well, but just not as much. This one just blew me out of the water. I was so stunned by what happens. She is really good at cliffhangers at the end of every book, that you want to read on. So I think the 5th book is supposed to come out in June. I cannot wait. I am so excited. But number 3 is my favorite of the series. And, again, it's a great fantasy. It does have romance in it, but it's much later into the series. So I don't know if I would classify this as fantasy romance until you got to book 3 and 4, but really, it's just, you just get to know all the characters that she meets. And then the first, in the first book, she's so isolated. I just love the way this goes. I think it's a great a series, and as I said, I just adored Gleam, and I just loved it. I mean, I pretty much reread it before I read Glow because I wanted to reread it anyway. And then my favorite book of the year, which is not a perfect book, but if I had to look back and say what book I had the most fun with, the one that made me think the most, the one that just made me want to devour and made me not want to go to work so I could stay home and read this book, and that is Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Danforth. This is not a perfect book. There are things in here I don't like, how things go, or the way things are, what answers we do get or don't get. But it was just such a ride. I just have to put this as my favorite book because it's a book I still think about going, wow, that was just so weird. And we're following two couple of timelines, different women who are, that go to this Brookhampton school for girls. And the earlier timeline is talking about some girls that are kind of into this kind of weird book, and they die, and then there's a mystery around that, and then something happens later, and it kind of culminates, and we learn about the timeline with the people who run the school. And then we have another timeline of some actresses and some writers who are going to be in a movie or connected to a movie that's going to be based on stuff that happened at the school. And it just has these weird elements, and just, you don't know what's going on. I just enjoyed this because it's hard for me to explain why I loved it so much, because there's just, I mean, again, I tabbed this one as well. I just loved the way things were building, and we'd go back and forth, and you're like, oh, that's a weird detail. And then something later would be like, oh, that kind of is connected to that, but why? There's so many questions on this one. I think it's very experimental in a lot of ways of certain things she did. As I said, it's not a perfect book. It doesn't give you all the answers. It doesn't It doesn't go where you think it's going to go. I just really enjoyed the ride. This was like the best 3 days of reading that I had. And this book is over, I don't know, what is it? It's over 600 pages. I swear it was like 3 days. I don't know. It was really short. I read it really, really fast. And this was just a fantastic ride. So this was my favorite book of 2022. I'm kind of surprised that this is it, but after I read it, I was already thinking this is my favorite book of the year. And as much as I've read a couple books that I really enjoy after that, this still holds out. Even though, as I said, I know some people really dislike it and don't get along with it. But I like these kind of weird books. So if you guys know of any, clearly I like Harrow the Ninth. I liked Plain Bad Heroines. You know, one of my favorite books of all time is, you know, the, oh, and I'm not going to remember the name. You know, the one with, oh, House of Leaves, you know, like that kind of stuff, like weird stuff. These are the things I like. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. But anyway, so I had a great reading year. As I said, I would say, again, some of my standalones made it on this list, but I would say, you know, 2/3 of my reading was, well, actually more than that. Okay, 2/3 of the new books that I hadn't read before were in series. But if you combine how many books in series that I read and reread is way over that. I didn't read very many standalones this year. So that's why there's so many series in here. So anyway, and again, I would recommend all of these authors and all these series. I love them all. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I don't know if there's any surprises or not, but it was a great reading year, and I'm really glad with what I got to read, and I'm really excited for the new year. So what is your favorite books of the year? Anything on here? Any of these that you want to check out? Do you know any really weird books that I should pick up because that I probably like? I don't know. I don't know how to explain how the weird stuff works, but sometimes if it's just a little confusing, I like it. I don't know. Because again, think of Too Like the Lightning, or the, you know, Terra Ignota series. That was one of my favorites from last year. It just, I don't know. I like weird stuff. Anyway, so, well, sorry. Anyway, let me know what your favorite book is, or if any of your favorite books were these, let me know, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.